the camera. Okay.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to our annual candidate forum. It is not a debate, it is a forum. So you will see that the questions will go, different questions, different candidates. It will be an alternating questions and answers. We're going to start with seat number 4 tonight. And these are the 3 candidates for seat number 4, Jim Bolt, Jen Lewis, and Chris Simmons. When they're finished and when Mitzi's finished, then we will have these candidates running for seat 3, and they will be in here, and I will introduce them to you. But right now, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Community Association. There's a lot of alphabet here in the Venetian. There's the CDD. They own the River Club. They are in charge of the infrastructure. You pay their bill on your taxes every year. Then we have the POA, and they are the branch that runs the Rules Committee and the Architectural Committee. They own the boardwalk. They also, our cable TV is included in that bill, and you pay that quarterly. And then there's a Community Association. And what our main purpose is that we work on issues outside the gate, and our motto is protecting your paradise. And the way we do that is we appear before City Council on a host of issues. We write letters. We talk to the county commissioners. We have been responsible for a lot of good things that have happened here in North Venice. The Jacaranda extension was our doing. The new hospital, we spearheaded a letter campaign to have that go through. We had the businesses write letters, we had the other neighborhoods write letters, and we had the citizens here write letters, and now we're pleased to say that that hospital is going to be opening later this fall. So the other things that we've done, that landscaping up on 75, we contacted Florida Highway Patrol, Highway Division, and had them put that landscaping in because our exit was very devoid and bare. We were responsible for the landscaping along Laurel Road before the park and many other things. Now let me tell you our dues, $30, not a month, not a week, $30 a year. So if there's anybody that's not a member, we have a membership table up there where you can get an application and you can be a part of our community association. One of the things that I'm sure you all know is that every month we send out Parcels in Paradise. And whether you're here or whether you're away, it keeps you up to date on what's going on in the community and in the neighborhood. We also sponsor the HRT, the Hurricane Readiness Team. Luckily, we've only ever had to call that into action once, but it's there if we ever need it. So we fund all of their supplies, and we man it. And we also have volunteers from the community that serve on that committee, and we appreciate that. We are offering CPR classes again this spring. We've been doing that almost every year. We didn't do it last year because of the pandemic, but we will be bringing that back again this spring, and that's a life-saving technique that everybody needs to know. We also sponsor Shred Fest, so when you have all those old tax documents and receipts that you don't need anymore, you can bring them to the parking lot and we have them shredded for you. We sponsor Bike-A-Rama, where you have your bike tuned up for free. We also do seminars, and we're going to try a new one on October 28th. We're going to have a lunch and learn with an orthopedic surgeon speaking to us. The other thing we do is on the holidays, we put the flags out by the front entrance. Memorial Day, 4th of July, Veterans Day, we bought those flags and we place them. We also clean Laurel Road quarterly. So you can tell we're really a busy organization. So we are happy to have all of you here and happy to have you as our members. And we look forward to hearing from our candidates tonight. It'll be a great evening and we'll learn a lot. So thank you so much. And Roger, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Diane. Give her a round of applause. That's fine. We're usually the first ones to have these candidate forums, and I'm very pleased with the number of people here tonight. And those who are watching are sort of like the Iowa caucus. And they were telling me that they have a number of these forums to go to. So this is a good rehearsal for them. The first thing I wanted to say is I'm sure that along the way somebody said when you're running for council, someone said, what are you, crazy? You know, being a politician today and all the hits that you get and criticism? Well, probably so. Therefore, I want to give them a special applause for deciding to throw their hat in the ring, win or lose. They've decided to do that. Welcome to the very best community in Venice. And when you vote, remember, Venetian Golf and River Club should be on your mind. So let's get started. First, Jim, let's say I'm Roger Efron.
Roger, pleasure.
So why don't you tell me about yourself and why you're running for office.
Well, my name is Jim Bolt, as the sign says in front of me. I am a retired business owner, and I have looked at the Venice area. I've been here for going on 30 years off and on. My wife and I bought a home here in 2010. We moved here full-time in 2018. I've always enjoyed this area, and the fact of the matter is that as we come to visit Venice from somewhere else, or we return to Venice, we see an awful lot of growth going on around us. And while it might not be in the city of Venice, it affects the city of Venice. And I was starting to hear too many people complaining. And if you're going to complain, the first question is, have you volunteered? And I really was considering doing something of this nature anyway. I put my name in the hat for a couple of different commissions. Unfortunately, had not been called. Honestly, when I heard that Rich Gutierrez was considering not running, I thought that that was a very important turn of events. I know that Rich was very, very involved in the budget and that numbers aspect. And being a business guy, I'm one of those guys that thinks that a lot of the core of what we do and what we can accomplish goes back to fiscal responsibility and common sense. And so consequently, I felt like the diversity of my background, owning 5 different businesses and basically 4 different industries, I had something to offer the council and the city in knowing a little bit of cross-section sort of stuff that, you know, we see in the council at every meeting. You know, they're discussing this and then they're over here discussing this. So a little bit of information is very, very dangerous, and that's what I have, just a little bit of information. But I've been working since I signed on to try to get up to speed to understand more about the city. And I will say this, that we are very blessed because many people in the city that work for the city, that work on whether it's the city council or other boards and commissions, are very forthcoming with information because they want the best for the city as well.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Welcome to the Venetian.
Thank you.
Now, Jen Lewis.
Yes.
Is it Jennifer or Jen?
Jen or Jennifer. Jenny is only used by my mom.
And have you been to the Venetian before? You ever been in here?
I have to meet with Mike, yes, earlier, but other than that, no.
You see what a lovely place when you come in there.
It's absolutely gorgeous,
Great,
yes.
great. Well, the same thing, let's say we were sitting around and talking. Tell me a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in running for the council seat.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. My family has been coming to Venice since 1992, and we came collectively here as a family for every holiday since 1992. And about halfway through those years, my sister and I fell in love with Venice so much that we had second homes, and for a big chunk of those years. I moved back permanently in 2018. My father passed away, and I came back to help my mom. And so I left a 35-year career with media sales with CBS and Clear Channel, and I moved back here to help her out. And I started a new career in real estate, and I'm proud to say that my first year I became Rookie of the Year. So I did fairly well in the town, but I'm established with a lot of the merchants and a lot of the residents because we've been coming here since 1992. So my concerns when I moved here in 2018, I'm a big water person, and red tide was super bad in 2018, and so I wasn't able to participate with anything in the intercoastal or the Gulf. And my mom got tired of me complaining about it this past year, and she's always told my sister and I, if you can ever do some public service, you should do that. And there are a couple of seats open for city council, and maybe you should consider throwing your hat in the ring. So I did on August 20th. And there's some things that I see in the city that I think I can make a difference.
Great.
I'm very passionate about the city, and I'm concerned about red tide. I have a lot of ideas for fertilizer not going.
We're
Oh,
going
I'm
to
sorry.
talk about that a
Oh,
little
I'm
later.
sorry.
No,
I'm
that's
so
all right.
sorry.
You're doing it right.
But anyways, I'm grateful that you guys had me on board, and I'm excited to put my hat in the ring.
Just need to have, because I asked about this, on the ballot, will it say Jen or Jennifer?
It will say Jen.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming tonight. Chris, have you ever been here before?
Yes, I have.
Good.
Been voting here for a while.
You've been here at the Venetian?
Yes.
Well, good, good. Thank you for coming tonight. And let's say we were sitting and relaxing at your favorite restaurant, which would be?
Favorite restaurant would be Finn's.
Finn's, and you would pick up the bill.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
Of
okay,
course.
I just wanted to make sure. And you can't pay me off at this point. And I'd say, hey, Chris, tell me a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in running.
Again, my name's Chris Simmons. I'm a disabled veteran, spent most of my life in public service. I was blessed to have had a career where I led the interrogation of our most dangerous terrorists and spent a long time, several decades, hunting down spies in this country. And then I softened and went to protect the environment, holding state office in Virginia for several years. My wife and I moved down, I should say returned to Florida several years ago. Our family, both sides, go back to about 250 years in this region. And her grandfather had the largest dairy farm in Tampa not so many years ago before development took over. Coming from Northern Virginia, I experienced overdevelopment like we're starting to see here. And I watched it take what had been a quaint little village that I grew up in, and now it's 1.3 million people and totally unrecognizable. I also, when I was heading in Virginia, I headed the State Association for Soil and Water Conservation. And I can tell you, unfortunately, Florida is decades behind the rest of the country in a lot of basic environmental practices. And for a state that's based on tourism, it makes no sense to me at all, because there's a lot of very cost-effective, time-proven measures that we could do to help undercut red tide and everything else. So with everything coming together, I saw an opportunity to take my experience and serve again and focus on the making smarter growth more sustainable and better protecting our environment.
Good. Well, thank you, and I'm not sure of the others, but thank you for your service to your country and for all those out here who have served our country. Thank you. I'm going back to my chair, and we're going to give you a number of questions. The more concise you are, I think the better we understand it. And first question deals with the road you came up, and that was Laurel Road. And as you know, it needs expanding, and there's been some talk in council about that in the Neal plan. Just want to make sure where you are on this in terms of the support. And of course, we're very much interested because that's our major thoroughfare. So let me start this time with Jen, and where are you with the Laurel Road?
I'm very familiar with this. I met with Mike and Sandy probably just right when I put my name in the hat. And for safety reasons, the road should be expanded. And I'm totally behind it, and I believe City Council and the members are behind it as well. That just for a variety of reasons, it needs to be done, just primarily safety. So I'm definitely behind that expansion.
Chris?
I also support it. As Jen alluded to, we've got the hospital coming in a couple of weeks, and the fire station this way, and development all over at Border Road and the rest of Laurel. So I would actually think we're a little behind the power curve in getting it expanded, because we knew this was coming. But as long as it gets done, because again, as you noted, this is a public safety issue. The infrastructure needs to be able to support the load that is already forecast for North Venice.
Plus the hospital.
Yes.
Plus the hospital. Okay, Jim, what about you in terms of this public-private partnership and the idea of expanding and getting the funding to accomplish this?
Yeah, the unfortunate thing here is that it's taken as long as it has, and as most of you probably realize, it's the issue of a county road within a city. And so the set of priorities is set not by the city of Venice, but mostly by the county. And I know that this has been in the works for a long time. It's a long time coming, and I agree with Chris from the standpoint, this is way overdue. The population out here is such that it should have been justified some time ago, but this is the standard back and forth that ends up going on between the county and the city. And it's something that we have to really, really work hard at. And I know that our city people are spending a lot of time working at trying to get closer to the county in order to make these things happen faster, because that's really what we need. There's no question this is a safety issue. There's more building going on out here. The volumes of traffic at any given time are going to be a situation whereby if somebody needs an ambulance here, they could get stuck in traffic and not make it to the hospital, which is so very close. So yes, we're all on board.
Good point. And by the way, thank you for your conciseness, all three of you. Another issue that concerns us up in Northeast Venice, and you realize that this part of the Venice was annexed. It wasn't part of the original thing. So is parks. And there's a study going on. Just want to make sure that you're on board with our initiative and efforts that the city is doing under Mr. Clinch's leadership to get a park here soon. And that's the main thing we're looking for. Chris, we'll start with you.
I wouldn't stop at one park. So when you look at the balance of parks between the island and the rest of Venice, we're way behind where we could be based on our population. I could and should be. And so I'd say start with the one and then keep lobbying until we get enough parks out here for everybody.
Jim?
Let's just remember that the John Nolan plan was to have adequate parks, adequate living space, and adequate working space. The guy was like the father of urbanization. And so as such, it's very difficult for me to sit here and say that this area out here does not deserve a park. Now, I don't know how many of you have dogs, but I have one, and my dog wants to be walked. And it doesn't want to be walked in the same place every day. So I'm all for the park situation. I think it's, again, it's something that we have to equalize where we are within the city as much as we can. There should be no significant difference between North Venice and the island and the mid-regions. There should not be. The rules should not be different. So yes, I'm all for it.
I'm for it as well. I know that they're looking at a dog walking park, pickleball, some tennis, and because they've added, this in this part in the northeast quadrant, and there's more people here. There's a need for a park, and it's the one thing that I've stated even when I met with the people 3 weeks ago, that I am 100% behind bringing a park here.
Great. You mentioned it before, red tide, nutrient pollutions, all those things in terms of the quality of water and your personal interests. What are your plans to deal with this nagging issue that has been around for many, many years? And Jim, I think we start with you this time.
I feel like red tide is an issue that's been around hundreds of years, so I don't think it's going to get solved overnight. There's many organizations, I think the University of Florida, we know that recently Moat Aquarium had suggested a particular way of neutralizing red tide, and they're now looking at the aspects of how that affects fish and wildlife and so on and so forth. I think the biggest thing that we can do is continue to support whatever efforts are going on out there. I think when we start talking about the specific communities, especially these newer communities, the greatest thing is that you've got already in place retention ponds with requirements for certain growth, which is very, very helpful in order to keep from having the contamination. The biggest problem that we probably have is on the island alone, because we have certain areas that are hard to control. What is it called? The Deertown Gully. And it literally is a gully down near the airport where runoff goes in, and it's very difficult to try to control that. So that is something that we've got to work towards to try to figure out, and there's 4 or 5 of those gullies that we need to deal with, and it's not going to be an easy thing to deal with because we can't just put a filter on the end of it. I have a meeting tomorrow with the Director of Utilities just because I'm curious as to where are we going with this kind of thing. It's an issue in this campaign, and it's a big issue in this campaign as well. It should be.
Jan?
Well, I'm very passionate about this. I still think that there are a lot of things that we can do on the island, off the island, but one of the things is still the fertilizers that we're using that are still running off into the intercoastal and the Gulf. I do think that's a problem. I think that there are septic systems that are still on and off the island that should no longer be, and I'm concerned about that. I think that I agree with Jim. Collectively, red tide is been here a lot longer than most of us have been. But it seems to be getting worse. And one of my pet peeves is Piney Point. And I believe that the spillage that they're putting into Tampa Bay is adding to the algae bloom. Now, the city of Venice can't do anything about that, but maybe we could get a coalition and start getting state, county, and cities involved. Because as we speak right now, I believe there was an application that was put in the Bradenton City Council to put a well underneath Piney Point. And that would be disastrous if that thing breaks or leaks, because it's going into our water table and we can't stop it. And I'm sorry, I've been coming here for 30 years. You know, the grandchildren in our family and my grandnieces and nephews, what is it gonna look like 30 years from now if we don't deal with this issue? So,
Okay.
so I'm very passionate about it.
Lonnie, correct?
I'm going to diverge here a little. In the military, they always told us, lead, follow, or get the heck out of the way. And when it comes to red tide and fertilizer, we need to stop waiting for someone else to solve our problem. We have the ability here in the city, whether we go from HOA to HOA or every house in the county, in the city, we can stop using the fertilizer with phosphorus and nitrogen. We don't have to be told by the county or the city or the state to do it. There are 6,600 lakes in Sarasota County, with a large number of those right here. Those stormwater ponds were designed to remove 80 to 95% of the pollutants in the ponds. They have failed since the day they were put in, and the state has known this for over a decade because their own tests prove it. They're working at about half capacity. So this is a chance for us to stand up, again, unite together as HOAs and as independent homeowners and say, we're going to make a difference right here, right now. And then we go to Lowe's and the hardware stores and get them to buy in. Because when we cut off the food to the red tide, it's going to cripple it. And it'll be less intense and lifespan will be shorter. That's a difference we can do right now.
Okay. One other issue that once in a while surfaces, I haven't seen it lately though, and everybody talks about, says, you know, it's a great idea, but not in my backyard, affordable housing. Tell me your position on affordable housing, and I think we start with Jen. Yes?
Yeah, that's a complicated question, and my mom informed me of the word NIMBY, not in my backyard. But it's something that I think we're eventually going to have to address because the population is growing here. And I believe, quite honestly, it is going to have to be a county and city issue. I don't think it can just be a city issue because I don't think there's enough land just in the city. It has to be close to public transportation. But I do believe that it is something that, you know, we should address. One of the things that was brought to my attention is I think we own some property, the city in Seaboard, and that could be a possibility, is something that we could do for affordable housing.
Okay.
So those would be my two ideas.
Okay.
I'd say it's time for a return to the Nolan plan. When he originally designed Venice, he called for mixed-use development with businesses and offices on the ground floor and residential on the second and third floors at mixed price points. And so rather than single out an area and say that's where the affordable housing will be, we can have everybody living together in a mixed-use environment where they can walk to where they work and dine and shop, which cuts down the road traffic, makes it easier for those that have limited resources to survive in our city. This is not a new problem. John Nolan gave us a solution 100 years ago. All we got to do is go back to what we know works.
I agree, it's not a new problem, but it has become worsened. It seems like over the last 24 months, we're having more and more difficulty finding whether it's servers at restaurants or people behind the counter at a retail operation, people to help in nursing homes. It's impossible for me to grasp the fact that we're going to be opening up a hospital right down the way here that needs 600 people to open up, and we're going to be able to staff that without having a huge effect and impact on our not only our economy, but the ecosystem. Everybody's going to be driving 45 minutes an hour to get to their job. So we have to do something. I don't have an answer for this. I wish I had an answer for this. But I believe it's an extremely important subject. I think, as I think Jen said, this is going to be a cooperation between the county and the city. The city has very little more land that they can annex. And consequently, that means that we're going to have to do something with the county to promote that in order to get that type of housing. And as we all know, there's different levels of that affordable housing. We can be talking about subsidized housing, we can be talking about professional housing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think ultimately the city of Venice and the county are going to need something in each level.
You mentioned the word county. What's your assessment of county-city cooperation at this point?
Well, I think there's a pretty good cooperation between the city and the county right now. Obviously, every issue can be a little bit different because it's different staff people from the city talking to different staff people from the county. But ultimately, I think that we're in much better shape than we may have been in times past because people have really been working at it.
And what's your thoughts, Jen?
I'm kind of hearing that, you know, as far as the roads and the park go, I don't know anything about affordable housing, but as far as Laurel Road and the park go, it sounds to me like there is, you know, there's great agreement there with the county and the city. So I have no idea on affordable housing.
But what about generally, you feel that?
I think that there is, from what my understanding and the people I've talked to, it seems like there's a good relationship.
What's your assessment of city-county relationships?
I think for the most part, we're doing well. I get some insights because I serve on the county's environmentally sensitive lands oversight committee. So we get different perspectives there. But one thing I learned with the federal government is organizations never work well together. It's the people within those organizations. So it's something that always has to be nurtured and sustained. I think we're doing a good job now. It's just something that we have to continue to focus on, and with changes in leadership, make sure the new leadership is welcomed by the county.
Now let's move on to the G word. No one likes to talk about the G word. I'm not going to tell you what the G word is, but it's something when your child is 10, he gets 16 and he gets taller. There's a lot of G in this whole community, okay? You can look at the building and everybody says, stop the, okay, growth. You know, stop the growth. Other people say, well, you know, these land developers, yeah, they have the right to go ahead and build what they need to build, and it's free enterprise and all that. Wow. So what do we do with growth at this point? Give me your assessment of growth at this point. And I think you're on first this time.
Right. My preference is, again, that we go back to an updated version of the Nolan Plan. It brings together everything a community wants. When you talk to people about Venice, the first thing they think of is downtown. Again, it's the mixed use, it's the green spaces, mixed income points. It's the walkability of the entire downtown area. It would be wonderful for this city and help reunite the suburban crescent with the island to bring back that idea of new developments will have their own mixed use. I look at our community, we've got 2-story condos. It could have been better served if we had 3 stories with businesses on the ground floor, with restaurants and shopping, so that you didn't have to leave your community to do anything. And I'm not saying every shop has to be there, but in most of the subdivisions here, if you want to accomplish anything, you have to drive out the front gate. And that's just poor planning from the start.
So, to pin you a little bit, where are you? Pro-growth? Anti-growth? Growth is just a matter of, just like that 10-year-old growing in this to be 16, it's a natural process.
Well, I don't think there's any such thing as anti-growth. I'm for what they call smart growth or controlled growth. Growth is coming. We're not going to be able to stop it, but we can guide it and direct it.
Okay. Jim?
I would suggest to you that growth is growth, and there's pros and there's cons to everything, it seems. And growth is inevitable. I think as long as there is land available within the confines of the city, there will be growth. The best thing we can do is set up land development rules and density rules and things that are, much of which is already in place, to control it, to build it the way we would like it to be built. I've spent a little time with the planning committee people just to try to get up to speed, and they are working on some LDRs presently that will be presented. Many of them are already in place, so to speak. And it's mind-boggling how much work has already been done looking down this path, trying to make sure that things are done in a proper fashion. And they're not just looking at 4 years from now, they're looking at what's going to happen 10 years from now. What is it that we're trying to accomplish? What is it that the city has to be careful of, because at some point in time a building is going to fall over and then we're going to have to rebuild it. We've got to make sure that the rules are set so it's built to the standard that we would like.
Okay.
And so it's inevitable. We just have to control it.
Growth?
I think we should have sustainable growth. You know, in what our future is going to look like, I think we should be more green housing, more electric charging stations. maybe a fleet of electric cars for the city of Venice. You know, we're running out of land, but, you know, it is a right to build land, state. And so the developers have to they can only build on 50% of the land. So I think it's important to see what they're doing with the other 50%. And we can try to regulate that with, you know, making sure that, you know, wildlife is protected because we keep developing and we keep moving them out of their natural habitat. We have to make sure that, you know, that the retention ponds are taken care of so that it's not polluting our water. So, you know, we can't stop growth, but we can have smart growth. And I believe with, you know, just being smart, going a little more green certainly would be one of the avenues that I would go down.
Did we give you that question? Okay. Let me ask you this. This is a wonderful city to live in, and I like it. You're getting involved because you love this city too. But is there one area that you think we need to work on, that you and sitting on council would be, that would drive you a little bit? We'll start with you.
Right now, the thing that I think needs to be paid attention to the most is the mere fact that we have just a tremendous amount of turnover in the city right now. For those that are unaware, we have a new fire chief, we have a new police chief. We are interviewing currently for a new assistant city manager. We have a new city clerk. And I'm just hitting the highlights. I think there's at least another 3, 4. So for me right now, if I want to look at just right here, right now, what's a major issue? I think that is a major issue for us to be concerned about on council, that we are making sure we're looking at people that will be able to step up in the future into these positions and not just always be like, well, let's just fill the position.
I need to ask you, how are you going to make sure you're not a micromanager when that's the city manager's job?
Well, we're not really allowed to talk to the rest of those people once we're on city council, or at least we can't direct them. I think we're very lucky. I see Ed is in the audience. I think we're very lucky that Ed does a great job of managing those people, but he's got his hands full. And, you know, we've got to be willing to hire good people to support his efforts and our efforts, because the fact of the matter is this is all on our behalf.
Okay. Again, the question, what sort of number one thing you think we need to work on a little bit?
Well, I'm passionate about this as well. You know, the town has changed a lot since I've been coming here in 1992. And I see a lot of the historical homes being torn down and very large homes going up in very small lots. My family came here 30 years ago because of the quaintness of the town. There's nothing commercialized here. It's boutique-y for the merchants and the retailers. And I see the landscaping changing a little bit, and I think we need to be careful about that. There's a height issue that's in play here for the LDR that's going to go up from 35 to 39 feet, which is 4 feet. And we just have to make sure that, you know, that we keep that so that the builders aren't allowed to have variances to go up to maybe 10 feet, which could change the structure of downtown Venice, where they could put residences above some of those buildings, maybe even take down those buildings. And we don't have parking as it is right now for the people that live above some of those buildings. So my passion is just, a sore spot is just to keep the quaintness of the town and make sure that we stop overdeveloping and taking these historical homes down.
Tell them what an LDR is. Even I had
Land
asked.
Development Regulation, it's about.
Why is that important?
It's about 700 pages, and it's documents that we're going to be, as city council, putting into law in 2022. So there are some things that, for the new city council members, that once we vote on this, my understanding is that, you know, we will be with this new comp plan for 10 to 15 years.
Okay.
So.
Thanks for explaining it. Finally, the question?
My number one focus, in addition to smart growth, would be the environment. And I say that not from a save the planet standpoint, but a more pragmatic, we live most of our lives outdoors here in South Florida. We survive on tourism. We dine outside. Back when I was with the Soil and Water Conservation Districts, we had what we called best management practices, which were science-based ways to clean up the soil and water. There are 3,000 of these districts across the nation with literally thousands of proven best management practices that we could pick and choose from and say, these 15 will work here. These 15, we can tell you how much it's going to cost, if it's going to cost anything at all, the lifespan, and the net payoff. Because while some people think of protecting the environment as a cost, it's actually a savings. Because we can either stop the pollutants in our stormwater ponds, stormwater management ponds, or we can stop it in the Gulf after the tourists have stopped coming and after our businesses have died, because no one can go out there because of the red tide.
Right.
So I look at the environment as, it's a great way to be, we need to stop being penny wise and pound foolish.
We're,
A little
we're
bit of
get-
investment pays off.
we're getting to the end, but you appreciate you coming. Was there any question I didn't ask that you were thinking I was going to ask and you want to answer it?
Not yet,
What's that?
not yet.
Not yet. Well, we're not going to be here till 11, you know. Yeah. Jim, any question?
Yeah, who's picking up
That
the
you were
bar bill?
anticipating that we didn't ask tonight?
I don't think so. I think you guys did a great job. I'm pretty impressed with the cross-section.
That audience has high accountability, you know.
Yes, they do.
Any question you
No,
think?
but I do have to say, though, that I'm happy for you guys that you get the new solar-powered water booster on Knights Trail, so that's something that's pretty nice that you guys added to this quadrant.
Well, finally, whether it's early voting, vote by mail, or actually coming into that room, this is one of the precincts here. And just to let you know, and they know it because we've put it in parcels, we vote here. We vote. Our percentage is very, very high. Why should we vote for, who wants to take this first? I'll leave it to you. Why should we vote for you? You want to take this, Jen?
I will. So, like I said, I've never been a politician before, until now. I was told by the Herald Tribune and the Gondolier. And I really, truly am doing this from my heart. And I love the city of Venice, all of Venice, on the island, off the island. And I'm just so concerned about a couple of areas, red tide and overbuilding, and changing the quaintness of our town. And I don't want my family's grandchildren and grandnieces to come here 15, 20, 30 years from now and not experience what I have been able to experience over the last 30 years. And I so strongly believe that we have to be proactive in the environment that we're living in today. And there are some changes that could drastically change the way downtown Venice look. And we have to remember why we came here, why we want to stay here. This is going to be my retirement. I moved here to help my mom in 2018, and this is where I'm going to be. This is my retirement. You'll see me out on the Intercoastal and the Gulf paddleboarding, and hopefully I've done something with red tide, and hopefully I've helped keep this town quaint. So I want to say quickly, I'm somebody that's honest, full integrity, full transparency. I'm a great listener, and I'll be your voice.
Why should I vote for you, Jim?
I'm sorry?
Why should I vote for you?
Oh, I thought we were going the other way.
You never know.
We too have been coming here a long time. Actually, we're third generation living here with a fourth generation and a fifth generation that visit fairly often. So we have the same kind of concerns. Literally, being a business guy, it all comes down for me to if we can do things with fiscal responsibility, with planning for reserves so that we can do the kind of things for the economy that we're talking about and for the ecological areas that we're talking about, because it's all important. But the money's got to come from someplace. So I really believe that it's important for us to have good fiscally responsible people on the council. And my background is such that at least I feel like I can have a big difference, make a big difference.
I have almost 40 years of public service, so I understand how governments work at different levels. And I like to bring that here to Venice. We have a lot of challenges that we're facing, some more imminent than others. But I think there's a lot of very pragmatic, cost-effective solutions that we can put on the ground now. When you were talking about we need smart financial leadership, yes, we do. But I also think we have a lot more power to make a difference here, now, instead of waiting for other people to help us. So, yes, I would encourage and work with the county and everywhere else. But first, I would work with our own friends and neighbors and community to remind them how much of control we really do have.
Well, you've heard them, if you see on YouTube. So I wanted to first thank you, Chris, for coming, and thanks for picking up the bill at Finn's, as you said earlier. Those 4 lobsters were great, I'll tell you. Jen, good luck, and you're vying for first time. These are all first timers, am I correct in saying that? And as I said before, I appreciate you throwing your hat into the ring, and we'll see you on the ballot. And Jim, thank you very much. Thanks for arriving early. Always worry about who's going to show up for the party. Thought you 3 did a great job. Why don't you give them a round of applause? And there is some campaign literature. We didn't want people to pass out when you leave, but I'm going to throw it back to Diane, who's going to introduce a special person here.
I am. Thank you, Roger, and thank you, candidates. Great job. I know it's not easy to sit there and answer those questions, so we really appreciate you coming here, and thank you. And I want to just take this 1 second. They're vying for seat number 4, and I want to say to Rich Cotero, who couldn't be here tonight, how much we appreciate. He has served on city council for 2 terms representing our community. He lives here. He's done a great job. He's been very responsive. We could pick up the phone and reach out to him anytime we needed to. So, Rich, thank you so much for your 2 terms in city council. We really appreciate it. And now I'd like to introduce our resident city council representative, Mitzi Fiedler, who was just reelected to her 2nd term last November, and she has done a great job for our city. She is also one who is easy to reach out to, and I do often. So Mitzi, thank you so much. Mitzi Fiedler, our councilwoman and my friend. So Mitzi, thank you. Okay?
That could be taller than me.
All right, well, I don't move it for you.
Thank you. Can you see me over my name? And can you hear me? I would like to thank the Community Association for inviting me here to make a comment. And I thank you all for taking the time to hear these candidates tonight. And I promise to be brief. I've enjoyed working for you for these past 4 years, and I'm proud of the many things that we've accomplished in a very, very short time. They vary from over $10 million per year for utility infrastructure upgrades, a new police station, a fire station, EMS service, a public service building, expansion of City Hall, road resurfacing, to name a few. Yet we didn't raise taxes, and we don't intend to. However, I would rather talk about some very important and perhaps difficult issues that are on the horizon that the winners in November's election will face in their first term. You've heard about some of them tonight. Red tide. Red tide will continue to be a factor for our residents. This year we have adopted a 4-year stormwater plan to mitigate red tide and protect our water. This plan needs to be monitored, and it needs to be completed. We can't stop red tide, but we can eliminate our contribution to it. Roads and parks. Both require a positive relationship with Sarasota County. We have an agreement with Sarasota County for the maintenance of our parks. We would like to modify this agreement. We would like Sarasota County to take over Wellfield Park so that they could create a regional park out of it. It will be a multi-million-dollar project. It will affect the surrounding roads of Pine Brook, Ridgewood, and Venice Avenue. Currently, we have a partnership with Sarasota County to improve that intersection. We have committed over $2.3 million to it, and the state has offered a matching grant. We have commissioned people, the Bowman and Oliver Engineer Group, to do a traffic analysis, and they've come up with many options for it. The most agreeable option comes in at $2.5 million, and it solves the congestion for over 20 years. In regards to Laurel Road, we sent a resolution to Sarasota County just recently asking them to accept the proposal from the Neal Group to expand Laurel Road and add a linear park. The linear park will extend from Myaka Park along the south side of Laurel Road to meet with a new proposed northeast park. The northeast park is envisioned to have 9 pickleball courts, bathrooms, parking, a children's playground, a 5-acre walking trail, and a dog park. I've placed this park on our October agenda for an update for its progress and a timeline for its completion. Both these projects, the regionalization of Wellfield Park, the correcting of the congestion at the Venice-Pine Brook intersection, the expansion of Laurel Road, the addition of a linear park, and a new northeast park require maintaining a positive working relationship with Sarasota County. We did not have this in the past. The next council will need to continue to work on this relationship for the benefit of the City of Venice. Land development regulations. Barry Snyder, our resident and chair of the Planning Commission, has been working with his committee for many years on these regulations. These regulations will determine how the City of Venice will grow in the next 10 to 15 years. They are important. They will regulate wildlife protection, water protection, stormwater protection, the beaches, how much land a developer can develop, and how it can be developed, height of buildings, etc. Currently, we are asking the public for input. These land development regs will be finalized by the next city council. Will these regulations be strict or lenient? And the budget, always an issue. This year we are estimating a surplus of over $500,000. There will be no increase in taxes. However, red tide, the pandemic, and hurricanes continue to plague us, which affect our budget. Our pencil always needs to remain sharp. We are hearing tonight from candidates who want to be on the City of Venice Council. Their answers to these questions are important. I am listening carefully, and I know you are too. And as always, I value your comments, your concerns, and your questions. My door is always open to you, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mitzi. Okay, at this time, I'd like our candidates for seat number 3 to please come forward.
And while they're doing that, I wanted to say that the other 3 candidates are going to stay here for a little bit. So if you have any questions afterwards, want to see them one-on-one, in the back we also have some campaign literature. And for those who are watching on YouTube, we appreciate you taking the time and watching our presentation tonight. Diane, is there any final thing you want to say?
I just would like to take this opportunity to introduce to you our first representative, Helen Moore, who currently serves on City Council, seeking a second term, and her challenger, Sandy Sibley. So welcome to the Venetian ladies, and thank you so much for being here. I'm going to give you each a bottle of water and then turn it over to Roger.
Thank you. Okay, same general format. We'll get through this. Only 2 candidates at this time. And we wanted to say to the 2 of you, as we did with the first 2 candidates, throwing your hat into the ring, we respect. It's difficult in today's world sometimes to say, I want to be a politician, which you are, a representative, but you're at least saying, count me in. And so we wanted to tell you from this community how much we respect you and appreciate all that you're doing now as a candidate, and if you're successful as a council person. And we'd like to start with a round of applause to you. Well, Helen, we'll start with you, you tonight. Let's say we were, let's say we're going to a favorite restaurant. What's your favorite in town?
Ooh, I have a couple of them.
Just one.
Okay, we are going to Cafe Langer. Is that okay?
Where is it?
It's
I can't even be a guest. I don't even know where. Well,
it's
I
on
know where-
Miami Avenue.
Oh,
in
I
town.
apologize.
Yeah.
I about a Burger King, you know. So we were talking at Cafe Langer,
Yes.
and we were I know where it is. We were talking, and I'd say, Helen, tell me a little bit about yourself and why you're running. What would you say?
I would say to all of you who were all having, a little something at Cafe Langer here, I don't know you as well as I'd like to here in Venetian Golf and River Club. I know a lot of you a little bit, some of you a lot, but in general, I don't know a lot about all of you. And I'd like to know you better. I think a smaller format type of things is better when there can be 2, across a table or around a room. But I don't, I feel like I don't really have a resume. I can tell you where I'm from. I came here from Terre Haute, Indiana, where my son and his family and various friends and relatives still live. My daughter and her family live in Baltimore, Maryland. So those are my 2 most frequented destinations that are not here. But I've now been here, I've owned a property here since the mid-'80s, and I've lived in Venice, the city of Venice, nonstop for 31 years. I've been in the business community. I had a small business when I was first here, and I got my real estate license in '91. So right from the beginning of the time that I've been here, I've been involved in the business community, and from there into the various organizations, gotten to know a lot of people there. So for those of you who've come here later that I haven't had a chance to cross paths with, I met a lot during 3 years ago when I ran for council, and your precinct favored me then, I have to say, thank you. And also, prior to council, I was on the planning commission for 5 years. So I know Mr. Barry Snyder very well. I have immense respect for him. We worked together on the comp plan. And I am also on the board of directors of Venice Main Street, on the board of directors
Great.
of Venice Area Beautification, of the board of realtors, and I don't just join things, I get involved in them,
Okay.
as I've done in the city.
Sandy, where were we going?
Well, hello, everyone. Glad to see everybody.
Where we're going for a bite to eat?
Okay, I would say
Your
the Crow's
favorite
Nest.
place?
Crow's Nest.
Crow's Nest.
It's always been very consistent and a beautiful view.
And you're going to pick up the bill as
Oh,
he is
sure.
okay, okay. They have lobster, my favorite.
Okay.
Okay. Tell me a little bit, we're having lunch, dinner, whatever it is. Tell me a little bit about who you
Sure.
are and why you're interested in running, and like her, keep it concise, because we got a
Okay.
lot to do tonight.
Will do. I'm originally from New Hampshire, and my family moved here in 1959. So as a child, I was blessed to be able to grow up on the beaches of Florida. I love it in Florida. I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm married to my husband Gary for 23 years. Our anniversary is tomorrow. And
Crow's Nest?
probably.
Okay, just want to make sure. Sorry to interrupt you.
Gary is a retired state police veteran of 20 years, and he's a recipient of a Medal of Valor for saving the life of another police officer.
Wow.
And so we moved here in 2001 to Venice, and that's when I started my real estate career. I've been very fortunate. I've been very successful in real estate. I've been inducted into the RE/MAX National Hall of Fame for my sales. So it's been good for me here. Prior to coming to Venice, I actually owned a few businesses, and I also have a business degree, so very much involved with the business end of things. Let me take a drink here. You know, I've learned to, everything that I've learned in business is problem solving, talking to people. That's what I want to bring to council. And when I'm talking to people, through the years, I've been here over 20 years now, and when I'm talking to people one-on-one, there are several subjects that come up over and over again. One of them is growth in Venice. A lot of us came here because it was a nice, small beach community. We wanted to stay that way. I wanted to stay that way. And we have to deal with that through our LDRs, our land development regulations. We can't stop progress, but we can manage it. Secondly, our historic downtown. Our downtown is the secret sauce to Venice. When people come to Venice and they go downtown, they fall in love with Venice. So that can't change. We cannot be changing the heights of those historic buildings. It's beautiful the way it is. It brings a lot of people every year. Our beaches and shorelines.
But if you will, try to bring it to a close, because we
Okay.
got a lot of questions, many of which you're hitting on.
Sure, okay, all right. So the business sector I'm concerned about, I want to make sure that they continue to thrive. And I bring a lot of practical experience to the council. I want to work with people to bring solutions to council, and I look forward to working with the council members to that end.
Great. Let's go down to some of the questions. Again, keep it concise as much as you can, but giving us enough meat. I think you know that Laurel Road is being choked by a lot of traffic and needs expanding. And where are you on this public-private partnership that is going on with Pat Neal, including the funding? Where are you with that to alleviate some of the problems in this area of traffic? We'll start with you, Sam.
With me?
Yeah.
Okay. I am not involved in that at this point, so I don't know a lot about it. I'm following as much as I can, but I am not privy to that as much as Helen is.
Okay, Helen, your position on this?
I have consistently voted to proceed with this and to shorten the belabored process of it. Mr. Neal and the county and the consultants and the city this has been in one form or another of discussion for going on 2 years, maybe 2 years, maybe longer than 2 years. I get a level of frustration when things just churn and don't seem to have decisions made on them. I'm really happy to say that I've encouraged it as we've gone along, and that at our last meeting, we have more progress. And the way the protocol will go is we voted to have the city formally request that the county make this segment of Laurel Road a priority in their long-term planning.
Let's talk about another thing that's in this area. And as you know, this area was annexed by the city. This was not a part of the city. And actually, where you're sitting was the Henry Farm. The barn was right here. So you are sitting in a rural area, and now we've blossomed. And one of the things that this community is looking for, and want to hear your viewpoint on, is parks in Northeast area. So we'll start with you, Helen.
A park in the Northeast was one of the elements of what we proceeded forward on for the requests. There's also to a group of stakeholders that has been very active with this, a Parks and Rec Research Board and so forth. So there's a lot of information that's come in. Venice has, something like 60 parks, but we have a whole lot more people now, and of course, the locations have morphed on out to the northeast. So, yep, that's part of what I voted to
So
approve.
you support what we're trying to do, is get more parks?
Yes.
Up here, a park up here.
Yes, there's
Okay.
no particular, plans, there's no, I can't say, oh, and over here will be the
Right,
such
right,
and such
right,
thing.
right.
No, but conceptually, yes, that is going forward, and I was proud to have voted for it.
Parks,
Okay, well, I am definitely in support for a park, a public park in the northeast sector of Venice. You all pay your taxes just like everybody else. You're entitled to have a park on this section. We have a lot of parks in Venice, but none here. So I definitely would support that immediately.
you mentioned earlier, you talked a little bit about it, we've talked about red tide and about pollution of the waters. As a member of council, do you think you can play a role in addressing this problem, which seemingly is having an effect on the quality of life of residents, tourism, economics of the downtown? So we'll start with you at this point, red tide.
Okay, red
And
tide.
the role you would play.
The role I would play is basically, I know that we can control the nutrients within the city of Venice. We have a new stormwater plan, and it covers 15 different projects over 4 years at a cost of $4.2 million. The plan addresses outfalls, creeks, stormwater drainage, and it's aimed at removing the nutrients from the water that feeds red tide. It's funded by state and federal grants, and if I'm elected, I will definitely monitor this plan.
Red tide, Helen.
Yes, I think actually the city has a lot of positives going with it. As Sandy mentioned, there's the new water treatment plant, but there's also so many more things than that. I have lists that I'd be happy to go through that are of the various pieces of infrastructure and upgrades to the systems within the city. I think there's a certain amount of misinformation, maybe, about septic tanks being an issue. The city of Venice has a mere 40 septic tanks in our whole 16-plus square miles, and each of those are more than 150 feet distant from a connection. And each of the owners of those property, these are more the, larger parcels. These are not in any kind of developed part, nothing in town or any of the developments. They've all, actually, the city has gotten them all to allow the city to inspect them regularly, which tells me a lot about how those people take care of and are conscious of what's on their property to keep it in good repair and keep it from causing damage, a septic tank mishaps or deterioration. My role is to help monitor the budget that does the long-term planning, the capital improvement planning, and the foresight to be prepared. We are keeping a reserve that is a little greater than we've had. There are a lot of statutes about what we can do or cannot do with our budget, but those are the kinds of things, because we can't control when something disastrous may happen or where it'll come from. We are one little place surrounded by Sarasota County on 3 sides and the Gulf of Mexico on the 4th, so we can no one entity can do it all. But we are doing a really great job, and I've helped make that happen.
Did I ask you about red tide?
Me,
Okay.
yes.
You mentioned the county. What do you think about the cooperation between city and council? Good between the county and the city?
Me. Okay, I
From,
think,
from an outsider, okay.
all right, from an outsider's window, I would say that it's getting better. There was a time I think it was contentious, but I think through the years that the council has done their best to make amends with the county, which is a smart move.
Not just a county, not just a council thing, but it's also the high-level staff in both the county and the city are the ones who carry the water, basically. We can do the policies and decisions, but then it gets to a point where those staff people and those leaders have to be able to work together, and that has immensely improved in, I'd say, 5 years, in the past 5 years or so. And and I feel that it's getting better, and it's also important for individual council members to know that landscape and to be able to have bonds and friendships and acquaintances with the county commission and know how all of those systems work.
Okay, let's say we're having lunch at, what's the name of this place?
Cafe Langer.
Cafe-
We can go over to Casa Riano. Let's go to Casa Riano.
Okay. We're having lunch and I say, okay, Helen, I know you're a cheerleader for this community. What do you think this city needs some improvement in?
I don't think the city is the least bit broken. I'm really proud of where the city has come. When we say beautification, we see all of that, but what we don't see is all the things that have taken place underneath them. In the city, in the downtown renovation project, it was so beautiful, but what was underneath there was over 50-year-old infrastructure pipes. They found wooden pipes in one section. So it isn't just, oh, let's have a pretty town. It's we have to have engineering and foresight and long-term planning to do the things that we don't just get to see. Of course, the traffic is annoying much of the time. Whether those are from homes within Venice or that are new construction within Venice or not, everybody thinks they live in Venice if that's their mailing address, but only 24,000 of us do. So we have to understand that people are going to come here. What the retirees in the 60s created is what people want now.
Sandy, we're having lunch at Crow's Nest, upstairs or downstairs, by the way?
Upstairs.
Upstairs, yeah, better food, better view, okay. And the same question, you're running for council, what do you think? What's the one area that you think the city needs some improvement in?
Well, I think the city needs to make the LDRs stronger. That's the land development regulations. We need more protections for environment, sustainability, and solar. I think those are the things that we need to work on very strongly now.
Okay, let's talk about the development, and you said in the first session that we had used the word growth, and I was thinking of a word that rhymes with growth, but I don't have a word that rhymes with growth. It might be a Jeopardy question, but everyone talks about growth, too much, too little, the land developers taking advantage. I mean, you hear all this type of stuff. Where are you on growth at this point, Sandy?
That's an important question. And again,
What?
that's a very important question.
Yes.
And I'm going to go back to the LDRs, the land development regulations. We need to enforce them. We need development. Actually, it's the LDRs have a 50% rule, and that's where a development is purchased by a developer, and he has to put 50% of the land aside for open space. So that's one area that we really need to strengthen in. So strengthening the LDRs along with additional wildlife protections and stormwater protections.
Good. Those are your things to deal with growth. Helen, same thing.
Those items are already in the comp plan, and the LDRs are in a process. I'd be surprised if the LDRs are complete 9 months from now. So there are a lot of things in the land development regs that can still be tweaked and would still definitely benefit from some public scrutiny. But I think there's, if you go back 25 or so years, Sarasota County and the City of Venice identified a number of parcels that the county, were in the county jurisdiction then, but were adjacent to the city of Venice jurisdiction. And those were outlined and drawn on the maps and kind of forgotten about for a long time. They were called the Joint Planning Agreement areas, the JPAs. So those areas, when it was written, can never be changed by either of those parties without agreement by both. So as more things were taking place, more energy coming, more possibilities here, it was kind of the philosophy was, why let the county do it? Let's have it in the city so that we can have more control, which that 50% open space rule has been in effect for a very long time, maybe 10 years, I don't know. That's the minimum open space, but that's after they get here. The idea of, a land grab and getting, annexing and so forth, nothing can be annexed that hadn't already been identified in a joint planning area 25 years ago. So we can control them better. We can do less density and intensity. We can make rules about how they're buffered, what kind of plantings, if there are wildlife corridors. We don't want to leave that to the county. Rightfully, the city should do it. And by the way, we get to collect the mobility taxes, the impact fees for parks, and the other revenue that adds into the city by doing that. So development, it's a matter of energy.
Okay.
And it's going to happen, and
Okay.
it might as well be under our control.
Could I make a comment?
Well, go ahead.
Okay, all right, the LDRs are now a vision, they're not law.
Right.
So they are getting ready to be, hopefully next year, they'll be voted on and brought in. But right now, they're not law,
Okay.
and they need to be.
Let me ask you.
There is, the previous LDRs are in place until the new ones are adopted. So there are land development regulations.
Right, but
it's just
they're-
not the revision of them yet.
Correct.
Okay. Let me also ask you about an area that is talked about, but a lot of people say, not in my backyard, affordable housing. Sandy?
Affordable housing is a difficult question because we need to find the land to build the housing. Land in Venice is very expensive, and so that's a difficult question, and I think that all governments are struggling with. There's really no certain answer for that. I'm for workforce housing, I would love that, but it's just a difficult thing to achieve.
Affordable housing.
Yes. Besides the NIMBYs that you mentioned, the not in my backyards, first and foremost, the city of Venice is not in the housing business, period. Hard stop. We are not going to build affordable housing. It is going to, I believe, be a public and private partnership, which very much exists now. There are things like Gulf Coast Community Foundation that had at one time had this. Land acquisition costs are very high, and there also are density requirements that the new land development proposed regulations say, well, you can't have, if you have an acre, you can't put 16 units there, which is what would amount to affordable housing, which would give the density for small pockets of area to do something affordable for an owner of those properties, not the city in the first place. So yes, it's a thorny problem. It's a problem that's been with us. It isn't, when we say there are so many definitions to it, affordable housing, attainable housing, workforce housing, subsidized housing, all different kinds of things, and they mean different things in different places and at different times.
Okay, we're rounding third, heading home. Question have at this point deals with was there any question I didn't give tonight that you were looking forward to that you'd like to answer now?
Oh, that's so sneaky, Roger. You do that on
Don't
purpose.
get them upset because they'll support me, all right? But it is
Okay.
sneaky. Who wants to take it? Was there any question that I didn't give that you thought I would give that you wanted to answer? Helen, yes or no?
A question that I thought you might ask?
Yeah.
I think you're doing well. You're hitting the high points.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Oh, you didn't mention homeless, and you didn't mention a storm shelter.
Okay,
and you
what,
didn't.
give us, what do you think about homeless?
I
Do we have a problem?
There are more visible homeless people migrating in and around and through Venice than there once was. Again, this is a public-private partnership. A homeless person doesn't know what, are they in the city, are they in the town, are they in whatever state they're in. I urge people, if they see inappropriateness, like people camping, sleeping, making nests in places that are like on the way kids going to school, 911.
Okay.
It doesn't solve anything, but there's an individual who's been, I've been told, living more or less at the tennis court downtown. And half of the people are saying, you need to get her and her dog out of here. And the other half are saying, why are you giving her food? Why are you giving her money? Why are you helping her dog? It's a vicious cycle. You want to be kind-hearted and you want to,
Sure.
be helpful. But on the other hand, people have to be given options to stabilize themselves and get into programs or situations that, once again, the city's not in the housing business.
Okay. A question I didn't ask that
Okay.
you wish I would have asked.
Yes, do we have enough water?
Okay? What's your,
And I'm glad to say that we do have enough water in the city of Venice. We have a huge aquifer under Venice that produces 4.4 million gallons a day, which means that it's exceeding demand. We're good through 2035, and we're adding projects to address future demands. So we're very good on water.
great. Okay, in the room behind you, on November 2nd, I think it is, we're going to vote. And this community votes. We, for the presidential, for this county, we were like third in the county at a 90%. So you'll see these people vote, and we're very much interested. So why should we vote for you in that room? Closing statement.
Oh,
90 seconds
Mike.
or less.
Oh, gee,
90
now you're
seconds.
saying two
90
different.
seconds, yeah.
Well, as I
That restaurant closes later.
Oh,
and I
you're
gotta-
right, they'll turn out the lights on us,
All right.
okay. Oh, as I said at the beginning, my tenure so far on city council is my resume. And my other tenure with various other involvements with the city, including the planning commission, also round that out. There's no substitute for just knowing how things happen, what the laws are, what you can and cannot do, and with not having an agenda, not coming in and say, I'm gonna stop this, or I'm gonna cause that, or I'm gonna upset this apple cart. And I'd also like to say in closing, I'm deeply disappointed in the last 2 years of the partisanship that has become an element in by Florida statute, where the position we hold is, and every municipality is nonpartisan. So you will not see a party designation on the ballot, and that's good, because it's not what we are here for.
Closing comments, Sandy. Why should
Okay.
we vote for you in that room?
Well, I'm like all of you. I'm a resident of Venice. I love Venice. I've been around for about 20 years now. And I would like for you to vote for me because I will support and vote for projects that will improve our quality of life. Density is a concern, needs to be managed through our LDRs. I want to make sure that happens. I support widening of Laurel Road east of I-75. I fully support a public park for the northeast sector. And I always want to keep attention on our wildlife corridors. I'm a big supporter of the LDRs, obviously, I've said it a few. But it really does help maintain our quality of life. If you feel the same way that I do, then please vote for me, Sandy Sibley, November 2nd.
Ladies, I really appreciate you being here. I hope we've given you the red carpet here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank also Michael Rendroff, who's in the back, who did a lot in organizing all of this. Thank you, Michael, for the time and commitment. The Community Association has met with all of these candidates, I believe. I wanted to thank those who are watching from home and YouTube. Thank you for learning more about the candidates. You as an audience have been just great. It's been 90 minutes. Maybe you waited for the Lexus giveaway that I talked earlier. And then those people at home say, did he really give away a Lexus? So you can tell them so. You people have been absolutely wonderful as an audience and being patient. I hope we've delivered to you a good product today to give you an idea as to what candidate to vote for. I'd like to thank Sight and Sound, who we've used for all of our productions. Gentlemen, you did, again, a great job. We'll look forward to it being up on YouTube. Hope everybody has a wonderful day. The candidates will be here. I'll be here. Michael, if you have any input or anything like that, please do so. Be safe. Thank you, and appreciate you being here tonight.